I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I said, it's fine. I said, I would only stand in line.
Wait a
Let's
second.
stand in line. He trusts me, and then he gets on the phone.
So. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, Madam President, at this time, there's 24 members in the meeting. Everyone has been brought in from the waiting room, and we are recording.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. It is 6:02. We'll call the meeting the council to order. Can you please call the roll?
Newman.
He's muted.
Tom.
Sorry, here.
Cameron Danner.
Here.
Rautenstrau.
Here.
Bylam is excused. Cook.
Here. All right, before we go through the agenda, I hate to do this to you, Mr. Clerk, but I'm going to make a motion to go into executive session for contract negotiations. Do I have a second?
I'll second it, Madam President.
Second by Ms. Cameron. All those in favor?
Aye.
6:03.
Okay, again, everyone that's in the meeting will be put back into the waiting room because we are going to executive session. We'll bring you back in as soon as the executive session is over.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, so we are left in the meeting is myself, Jenna, Sean, Mike, Brittany, Don, Rick, and Bill Reese.
Could you just pause the recording and then let Mr. Newman back in?
Recording and bringing them back.
Okay. What does everybody think? Should we go through the agenda or have the police reform committee come in first?
I think we should probably have
I would
the
do the
police reform. I think we
Okay.
want to make this, maybe discuss whether or not we want to adopt that this evening too, and some of the rewording.
Okay.
It would probably be worthwhile to have them give a presentation before.
Perfect.
We do have to adopt or have a special meeting before the first.
Otherwise, we have the potential for losing some state funding on that.
Yeah, I think we should all pencil in next Tuesday. Just to finalize. Now,
It might have
Sean,
been my music. I have it on for the
I thought it was
dog.
good music. Now, Sean, who's speaking?
I believe Lindsay Jelski and Phil Shields are online. For
Perfect.
some of the presentation.
Perfect. And Jim, you have the presentation,
Yes,
so you'll put that on the screen as well?
as soon as we get everybody in.
Perfect.
Full house.
Oh, no. Where'd it go?
And Jim, do you have the presentation that you could share with everyone?
Yeah, he said he'll put the presentation up as soon as everybody's in the room.
Awesome, thank you.
Anyway.
I should want a TV. If you turn the volume up on the TV. Yeah, you should be able to use a big one.
I'm looking for it.
Okay, everyone is, Madam President, everyone is in from the waiting room. I will go ahead and share that screen for the Police Reform Committee.
Perfect, thank you. All right, I understand there's members from the Police Reform Committee here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
If you could just please unmute your devices, and I'll turn it over to you.
Great, so thank you for allowing us tonight some time to go over the police reform findings. So back in August of this past year, we were tasked with putting together a committee group and essentially start to do some fact finding, reach out to the community, come up with a plan, see what needs the community had when it came to police, what concerns the community had when it came to police, whether it be policies or practices or the sheer number of officers on the force, or the different resources that were available. And we took all of that information and are now going to present to you some of those findings. So the committee members comprise of a bunch of different backgrounds and experiences and skill sets. So we could give a pretty well diverse group to have a functioning committee so we could move forward. On the next page, it gives us a little breakdown for the total police response calls. So in 2019, we had 18,766 calls. And then in 2020, we had an increase to 20,273 calls. So we do see the increase, or typically is the increase in calls. And then on our next page, we go into the actual breakdown of those calls. I am going a little quickly through this presentation, just for the sake of everyone's time this evening. But all this information has been provided or is on the site for the public to view it as well. So you can see here that just a little breakdown of how those calls are over the course of the year. And it does go on to 2 pages. Again, a further breakdown of those calls. And then moving forward, the survey information. So when we got together, we were looking at how other cities were gathering the information. And we were one of the first cities to really start to gather the information from the community. We released the survey on October 26th. We've had over 300 responses as of December. And we used multiple sources to get that survey out. Obviously, we had COVID restrictions, and then we also fell into the different colors for the restrictions. So having in-person meetings was limited, which is why we really did have to rely on social media and other sources and the internet for gathering of data. Off of all the data that we received, we came up with some recommendations. And before I get into the recommendations, I just wanted to say that the responses in the survey really do showcase how much respect and essentially love that our community has for our police department. It was a lot of positive comments, a lot of positive remarks, a lot of positive interactions. And I think that that's just a beautiful thing for our city. Also, with the governor's executive order, it's important to understand a lot of their suggestions don't truly apply to a city like ours. They apply to much larger cities, more like, if you're looking at Albany or Buffalo. So some of that reform is needed in the larger cities where we in the city of Tonawanda are already doing those things, and we have been doing those things. We are one of the few departments that's actually certified through the state or accredited through the state since 1991. And it's an accreditation that we go through every 5 years, and it's very complex and there's a lot of different layers to it. And again, we've held that since 91. So I think that that's, again, a great kudos to our police department to show what we are doing and that we are doing things so well and essentially ahead of the game as well. And again, that is up, I believe it is this year for the accreditation. So we will go through that once again. There's a lot of different layers to it. And again, we've held that since 91. So I think that that's kudos to our police department so well and essentially ahead of the game. And again, so with the recommendations, we based it on the information from the surveys. And our top areas that we are recommending is the additional funding for officer training in mental health, equipment, crisis, or emotional training, more officers, more diverse or availability to different equipment, more community engagement through like community events, social gatherings, things of that nature, more collaboration with outside sources like crisis services or different homeless shelter groups and or different domestic violence groups and so forth. On the next page, we go into the school resource officer duties and involvement, further explained or possibly used, resources for trauma and ability to do job duties. So we want to make sure that the officers have what they need to come through the trauma and so forth that they may experience. Educating the public. So this was a unique topic that was coming up. Was a lot of the suggestions the community was saying to us are things that we're already doing, and we, including myself and others on the committee, just didn't know that we are doing those things. For example, the use of body cams. That's something that we have been doing, but I don't think many of our residents know this. We were also looking at how calls are dispatched as a recommendation, as well as the formation of a Goodwill Ambassador Committee, which would act as someone to kind of go between the concerns of the community and the departments. This way there would be that constant flow of information. And then the next several pages, that is just straight data from our survey. And you can go through this a little quickly, City Clerk. Again, this is just straight data from the survey that kind of supports why we are doing the recommendations that we have. And you'll see some of those topics are again going to be repeated on the next several pages, like the more officers, diverse equipment, diverse force, and so forth. You'll be able to see that in the next several pages. So again, our task was to essentially gather the data for the city, put it together in a cohesive way, and then come up with the recommendations to act as a vision or a wish list. And our hopes is that this information will then help you and help the city get additional funding so we can meet these needs.
So, I mean, a lot of the recommendations that were put forth, all of them have some tie to funding in some sense or another. So we were not asked to come up with how we're going to obtain the funding. We just took all the information that we received from the residents, from multiple different forums, and kind of put this list together. I mean, all the information has been provided. Hopefully you guys have had the opportunity to review them. Is there any questions on what we've gone through thus far? Is there anything you'd like additional information on? Can anybody hear what I'm saying?
If I can comment, Phil,
Sure.
I think you guys really hit on the important topics. I should mention that I was the council liaison, the council representative for the committee. So I was involved, and I got to be a part of all of this. And I think they really did their due diligence on this in going over the data, interpreting the data that came from the public. Phil really drives home a point. It's the duty of the police reform committee was to gather the information, interpret the information, and present it to the council. When it comes down to it, it comes down to financing, and I think that's the council's obligation to make those recommendations, to accept these, and to also put the verbiage in there that this is in fact dependent on funding, on how we're going to get it, and how we can implement this. So hopefully by presenting this, by getting read by the governor and him going through it, we'll eventually get the funding, and they'll be able to push it down for us. And I think that's an important point to make. I think these are all great suggestions. I mean, a lot of these are common sense suggestions. Nobody's looking to take anything away. Everybody's, you got a lot of people talking about defunding police and defunding all these things. And what it's looking at is actually funding them and giving them more of the resources and tools that they need. For what it's worth, that was my additional commentary on it. And I want to also thank Phil and Lindsay for presenting this as well.
And the key of this is that these recommendations would be approved and adopted by the council by April 1st to be turned in then to the state, who in turn has to approve them and go through their own process. And again, our wish is that this is the information the city needs, you need to help get additional funding to meet these goals.
And there's a deadline associated with when we get this to the governor that's tied to other funding sources. So it's very imperative that if you have questions or if there's anything that needs explanation, now is the time to do so. And then it's up to the council to ratify, rectify, whatever you want to call it, and then submit them with the appropriate documentation.
Okay, just let me interject here, please. Once the council does ratify the plan goes to the mayor, and the mayor submits it to the state. There's a ratification form that the mayor has to complete to go forward with the plan, and it's all to be submitted by the 1st of April. That's the deadline.
So again, is there any other comments, questions, anything else you would like further explanation on?
No, I just want to tell you guys, thank you very much for taking your time putting this plan together so our residents can actually see what our police officers do in our city, that we've been above the standard for quite some time. And with your help, moving forward, hopefully we'll get some more funding in here to improve on that. Thanks again. Great work, guys.
Yes, thank you very much. Now, the slides you presented, those are the same slides that you sent to the clerk, correct?
There was two different decks. This is the condensed version due to timing concerns, but we actually already gave you guys the full list, which every single question and every single answer and the breakdown. Obviously not every single person answered every single question because they felt either they didn't have an answer. So we did our best to try to, we all met, we broke up the questions individually and tried to put them in as much of a format that was understandable. But there's a bigger slide deck that has every single question and every single breakdown. And that's also been presented. We just didn't want to go through that in the interest of time.
And that's in the Dropbox file that you had sent over, correct?
Yes.
And
Perfect.
also in that Dropbox is all of the documentation from the state, the background on the city of Tonawanda. What the breakdown is for how many police officers, what their ethnicities are, and there's a lot of additional information that's there. Again, I just didn't want to take the time to go through all that with you guys' full load. And that's kind of why I'm asking these questions. So if there's something specific you guys need to know, we're more than happy to provide that.
Absolutely. So if there are any additional questions before we formally adopt a resolution, we'll let our council liaison know, and then
Yep.
he can be in touch with the chair.
And then moving forward, there still should be a member of this committee or still this committee around to make sure that it's followed up on and it's actually adopted and things move forward. So once we get to that point, we'll discuss who that person's going to be, but I believe your best person right now would be Sean, correct?
All right, perfect. Any other questions? All right, thank you all so much for your participation and all the effort that went into this. I really appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate your
Thank you.
time and allowing us to do this, and hopefully things move forward. We get the funding we need and we continue to be the best police force around.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right. With that said, let's move on to our agenda. All right. Minutes? Dawn's muted, Tom's muted.
Can
I'll take the
them.
minutes.
Okay. Bills, any questions on the bills? Tom, you're good? Mr. Newman, are you taking
I
this?
am. No, I'm good with the bills, but I can take them.
Okay. Food truck Thursdays, Dawn?
I'll take it.
It's been a while since I've seen a change order come in our favor. So this is great. Do we want to do council on this?
Sure.
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 All right, resolution 5. Terminating the ethics board.
I'll take it, Madam President.
I didn't hear you, Tom.
I'll take that one, Madam President.
Okay.
Madam President,
Mr. Armstrong?
if I can just make a suggestion, I just crossed my mind as we're going to this one because I was going to suggest we do it as council, but with Dave absent, can we do number 4 as council?
No, yes, number 4 is we can.
Okay, I was just
But-
asking the question. I wasn't sure.
If you want to take it, do you want it? You could, it's certainly all yours.
I think anything we do as a group is wonderful.
Okay. Resolution 5. Do we have any discussion on it? Okay. So this terminates and then it terminates and rescinds the remaining term of all the current board members from the ethics board. Any other discussion on it? Questions, comments?
Are we doing council as number 5?
I thought you said you were taking it.
I will. I just didn't know what Sean was. I can still keep it. That's fine.
No, I was just questioning whether we can do it as council with an absent member. Just circling back to number 4. Sorry.
Gotcha.
Okay. So
you know-
we're on resolution 5.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so Mr. Newman. Okay, resolution 6. which establishes the Board of Ethics and amends the changes.
I'll
I'd
take that
like
one as
to-
well.
As follows. So they'll be appointed to a 2-year term.
Madam President, I will take that one as well.
Mr. Newman,
No one's opposed.
okay. Sponsored by Mr. Newman. Okay. Next, resolution 7.
Madam President,
Mr. Rounstrau?
it was my just suggestion that we table number 7. I think we have some questions as to the number of people on the council and to maybe suggest bringing it up to 5. So if it does come to a tiebreaker, we have an odd number of people to follow through. And to give us some time to accept any letters of interest or suggestions by other members of the council to add an additional person.
So we're terminating, so resolution 5, we're terminating the board and rescinding the board. But resolution 7, you're suggesting we table.
In appointing new
So-
members, yes.
Okay, so then we won't have an ethics board.
But I mean,
Did
the
we
reason we're
table-
dissolving it is because there is issues with the construct. I think it's, unless there's anything pending that we don't know about, it might be a good idea to take this into consideration and add the people that we want to put on there, add additional people,
Okay,
unless you're suggesting we table all of it. But you know, I think it's great that we've dissolved it and added the amendments and established an ethics board. I just say I'm suggesting we hold off on this one.
well, with the absence of a full council, if that's one of the reasons behind tabling resolution 7, I would hate to be without an ethics board until we, determine the number of people or who we're going to add on, or. So if you're gonna make the motion to table a resolution, I would suggest we table all the resolutions associated with the ethics board until we have a full council.
I agree, President Cook.
Sure. I'll make the suggestion to table all 3 then. I was just looking at having everything in place and bringing on a council.
Okay, so going back. So you're making a motion to table resolutions 5, 6, and 7.
Sure.
Do we have a second? Please call the roll, Mr. Clerk.
On tabling resolution number 5, 6, and
The
7.
motion is to table resolutions 5, 6, and 7 by Mr. Brown.
Newman,
Aye.
Cameron,
Aye.
Rautenstrau,
Aye.
Cook.
Aye. Okay, resolutions 5, 6, and 7 are tabled. All right. I am going to make a proposal that we amend resolution 8. Amend it to February 1st of 2022, so that there's an annual accounting of all the funds provided by the city no later than, I'd like to make an amendment that we change that to February 1st. of 2022. Thoughts?
Is it just me that's losing you, Jenna, or is everybody else hearing you? I'm
No,
sorry.
I'm losing her too.
Oh,
Okay.
oh, sorry, guys. Okay, did you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. So I wanted to make an amendment to resolutions 8, 9, 10, and 11. And I would like it to read, resolve that the fire chief will provide an annual accounting of funds provided by the city no later than February 1st of 2022. Everybody agree?
I agree.
Tom, Don?
I'm okay with that,
Yes,
Madam President.
I am too, Madam President.
Okay, Mr. Clerk, so you got that?
I have those changes marked. Yes, thank you.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Okay, resolution 8, who's taking it?
I think these would all be a good support to do it as council if everybody's in favor.
I'm
Absolutely.
in favor.
Okay with that.
8.
Madam President, is that for 8, 9, 10, and 11?
Yes, please, Mr. Clerk. All right. All right. Resolution 12, authorizing the mayor to apply for the Tonawanda Community Environment Benefits Program. You want to do council?
Sure.
Mayor, do you have anything to add to this?
Just for point of reference, this was the $1 million from the Tonawanda Coke settlement that was to be used for different community grants. So we're putting in an application for Veterans Park for upgrades at the playground, upgrades and for the electrical and for the bathrooms up there.
Perfect.
And we should hear back by November of this year who was awarded the funding and who wasn't. So
Great. Okay, council on that?
I do have one question. Mayor, can you answer one question? So this grant, any funds that the city has to put towards that? Or is all coming
at this
from-
time, no. In-kind services can be used. There is no match required for this grant.
Okay. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay. All right, resolution 13, which is relative to the Police Reform Committee. And it stops and it says, now therefore be it resolved that the Common Council of the City of Tonawanda hereby adopts and intends to implement the following police reform measures. But it's blank. So we need to talk about this.
I think one of the first things, no matter which one of these that we adopt, it's my hope that we adopt all of them. But I think it's very important to put some of the verbiage in there that it intends to consider implementing under budget constraints. I think that's one of the key things. All of these make sense. All of these are important. These are all based on community outreach and what people want. And I recommend it, and I hope that we can adopt them if everybody's on board. But again, with the the intent to consider implementing under budget constraints, if we could add that verbiage along with what we decide. And beyond that, it's worth discussing if there's some agreement if what the realistic goals are in here. And I think there should also be a commitment on our part to continue to touch base if we appoint some sort of outreach ambassador with them, and to be able to put out to the community where we're at with this, where we are with getting the funding, and keep people informed and updated. Be it if it's somebody from the committee that's willing to continue the great work that they're doing. We'd love to have them and be able to work with them. Beyond that, I'm not sure what anybody else's feelings are on these. I think we have about 9 items on here to consider. Making sure that they have the tools to do their work and the resources, I think, is very important. Not only, we just went through this with the volunteer fire for any of our emergency services. I think it's important. And this kind of comes down as a mandate from the governor. And hopefully, as part of that, he finds a way to help us with the funding on these as well. So to have them laid out and lined up out there as a document that we're filing with them, I think we can hope that the funding will come from it.
Okay, so question, given the fact that we don't have the full council tonight, do we want to discuss this next Tuesday, knowing that our time frame is April 1st, that we have to adopt something by, so we do have some flexibility, but in the absence of one council member, do we want to meet next Tuesday, or do we want to discuss this further? What do we want to do?
I guess, and not to dismiss Councilman Mylum, is this a requirement that we have a supermajority vote, or is this by a 3 vote?
No. We need 3 votes.
And my next question, I guess, is there any objection to it? Has everybody had a chance to read through this and have an understanding of it? And at this point, is there really any objection to pursuing these options?
No, I think,
Madam President.
Mr.
Madam
City
President,
Attorney, yes.
yes, the way we interpret the executive order, what you adopt, you must implement. This isn't subject to budget constraints. In the governor's budget proposal, he included a provision that he wanted a monitor to make sure everybody followed through on this adoption. That was, I was told from NICOM that was eliminated in the legislature's budget. They're not going to have a monitor, but whatever you adopt, you must implement, not subject to budget constraints. So this was intended to make reforms, not to have a pie in the sky, like we'd like to hire 100 officers. We're going to try to do it if we can. That's not what the governor was asking for. He was asking for, and he wants to see specific reforms. What you adopt, you must implement.
So then clearly we're going to need some sort of a budget item for all these things.
We'll need a fiscal.
If you're going to impose all of those recommendations, once you adopt them, the state's going to see that you have to follow through on them.
Is there a timeline on following through, Mike?
Not that we could determine, other than the governor tried to appoint a monitor. But I was told that in the legislative budget that was taken out. Because he wanted a monitor to actually make sure people were doing what they adopted.
So we will need the fiscal impact of hiring 4 new police officers.
We're going to need a fiscal impact on all of it.
Exactly, on all of these then, if that's the case.
Right.
And if it's up to us to determine a timeline that we could put this into place.
Yeah, there was nothing on timelines, just whatever you adopted, they wanted implemented. They wanted reform, not speculative reform. They wanted actual reform.
Okay.
That's why there was the April 1st deadline.
So on the question, is everybody available next Tuesday?
Yeah, I can make myself available on Tuesday to handle this. So it'd be worthwhile to table it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion to table this. Do I have a second?
I'll second, Madam President.
Mr. Clerk.
Losing you, Jenna.
We have a motion to table resolution number 13 by Council President Cook, second by Councilmember Newman.
Yes, can you please call the roll?
Newman,
Aye, but we wait to the meeting for that?
No, we've tabled a few, so
Okay.
we'll say it in the beginning that.
Aye.
Kimmerdiner,
Aye.
Rottenstrau,
Aye.
Cook.
Aye. Okay, resolution 13 has been tabled. Right. All right, our budget amendments. Who wants it?
I'll take it, Madam President.
Mr. Newman? Any comments, questions? Okay. All right, and we don't have exec. All right, let's go around the room. Mr. Newman,
I really don't have anything, Madam President. Thank you.
Ms. Camerediner?
Just a couple of things. The rezoning for the downtown area. I sent you guys all an email today in regards to an issue that possibly might be coming up for the C2 zoning. I'd like to invite Eric Lindhurst to our next meeting, so maybe he can shed a little light on it and see what we need to do to move forward with that, if everybody is okay with that. The other thing, I spoke with Mandy.
Mayor, on that, Mayor, can you just make sure Eric is available to meet with the council on
April.
April 6th?
Yeah, just what time suits everyone's fancy?
Let's do 6:15.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yep.
And I did speak with Mandy briefly today. We all know that Kelly starts tomorrow. Their goal is to get the summer programs up and running, along with that would entail opening the pool. Hopefully we can do that this year with COVID. You know, she wants to bring back the after school programs. Again, this all entails, you know, everything that's going on with the COVID. So I told her that, you know, God willing, everybody's healthy, we can move forward with that fairly soon. With that, I think maybe once Kelly gets situated around at a plan, I know we had chatted about that briefly, just a basic plan of what would entail bringing back our students, again, with our seniors. Hopefully that's another thing that's coming sooner rather than later, just so that we all know what we're up against as far as that goes. Other than that, I think that's all I got. It's been pretty quiet, as we all know. That's all I have.
Perfect. Mr. Rautenstrau?
You know, I don't have anything specific to this. It's more in regards to Canal Fest. I did have a chance to talk to one of our local business owners, Mr. Karcher, from Billigans, and he has some concerns. I think this is more probably when Rick Meyer comes on to bring these. So I hope you know, Mr. Karcher can join us. But you know, I do want to state that there's some issues with the rooms in the space along Niagara Street, allowing the businesses that are there and to have the room to be able to continue their business. There's been issues with parking. There's been issues with entering their storefronts. And I hope we can consider this. I think I missed it and I didn't realize it was at 7:30 that Rick was. I was thinking it was before the actual meeting. So one, I hope I can ask Mr. Karcher to stick around until Mr. Mayor's on there. And just if it pleases the council and the council president, if we can allow him to speak to some of his concerns before or after Rick Mayer speaks. And hopefully while he's there, so we can bring those along to the carousel committee and everybody that's in charge of this. You know, I think it's important to, when we talk about this, when we talk about, there's a lot of other concerns with where we're going to be at with the pandemic. I know there's some more information on that. Some issues with the funding and how it affects our city. But I think the number one thing is we've got a lot of new and front-facing retail businesses that we haven't had in many years. And a couple of them are new ones. We're looking at, you know, Twin Cities, Deli, the candy shop, Munchies, all the businesses down there that weren't necessarily there before, that are front-facing, that may not have a realization of the impact of Main Street being shut down and what Canal Fest means to them. So I don't know if this is something that I'm suggesting that we as a city reach out to them and work with them, or we can make that request and the suggestion to the Canal Fest committee to do this and to seriously listen to the concerns of the businesses that are in that area and work with them to make this as accommodating as possible to them. I just want to put it out there. I hope if as we continue conversations, Dawn and I kind of share that Main Street area between our wards. And I'd like to bring us both in to talk to the businesses, talk to the people, and kind of get an idea from them, to do our part as the city representatives and do our due diligence with them. But I do want to put a request out to the Canal Fest committee to have a commitment to work with our businesses as well. It's very important to them, and they've been very important to building our downtown and our Main Street area. And with that,
Agreed.
Absolutely, I agree.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so anyone that's sticking around after our formal, we will be meeting with the Canal Fest, Rick Mayer and Pete Chenier, as well as Chief Strasburg and Chief Stewart as well, to discuss the campus layout and their proposal. Anything else, Mr. Rauenstra?
that is really it for now. Thank you.
Perfect. Mayor?
I'm sorry. I do
Yes.
have one more thing. Just the consideration to the rest of the council. I know it was put out there. The proposal for IT services. I don't know if anybody's considered this or if we have more information on it, or where we're moving with that. I didn't know if anybody has any concerns or opinion on this, or the want to move forward, if it's something we want to put into a resolution and move forward with, or if we're waiting on some sort of more information on this. We've received a lot of letters of recommendation, the financials on this, and I think it's a great idea, but I just didn't know where anybody else stood on this, if they agree with the idea, if there's more that needs to be done, or if they have questions to be asked on it.
No, I feel that we should put a resolution together. I think we're all in agreement.
I know the mayor did meet with another IT outfit, and he was going to get that proposal as well. So I think once we have that in writing too, we can take the information that we have and make an executive decision on it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Do we actually establish an RFP for this or no?
It's my understanding.
No,
recently-
we don't, technically, we don't need an RFP. It's something we can absolutely discuss. The policy says if it's in the best interest of the city. But as I have mentioned, I believe the mayor has another proposal coming through with us. So I think once we get that, let's take what we have and let's have a discussion on it.
Excellent.
Okay.
And with that, I'll turn it over to the mayor.
So wonderful lead in. So I had a conversation with one of the companies. They did not want to put anything formally in writing, but they indicated as of right now, you're looking at about $115,000 to put somebody in City Hall for 20 hours a week. And that would not include any on-call services or anything like that. The other thing to consider is that like during the incident at Tim Hortons, where Lieutenant Sheehan had to get up on the stand and ascertain the validity of both the body camera footage and the server that it was stored on. Any company that's providing us IT services would not be able to help us with this avenue, either the body cameras, nor would they be compelled to testify in court as to the validity of body camera footage and their safe and secure storage on our server. So just food for thought.
Do you mind just capturing what you said to us in an official correspondence?
Yeah, I'll send out an official
Record.
correspondence tomorrow. And the gentleman from the third ward pretty much took all my time, so I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
All right. All right, thank you. If there's nothing else for around the room, Mr. Clerk, we'll call the City of Tonawanda Council to order at 7:06. Can you please call the roll?
Newman,
Here,
Cameron Danner,
Here.
Rautenstrau,
Here.
Mylum is excused. Cook.
Here, please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and
with
justice.
liberty and justice for all.
Right. God of justice and mercy, thank you for the opportunity to serve the people of the City of Tonawanda. Help us to listen to their needs with understanding and compassion. Help us to see with dignity those who disagree with us, and to treat all people with reverence and respect. We ask this in your name. Amen. Okay. Communications from the mayor have been ordered and filed. Communications from city officials and correspondents have also been ordered and filed. For those that are joining us, please note that resolutions 5, 6, 7, and 13 have been tabled, and we are not going into executive session. At this time, we'll now take comments by the public on the resolutions. For those of you that wish to address the council, please unmute yourself. And I believe there is a spot where you can raise your hand, and then we will call on you. We'll now take comments from the public on the resolutions. Mr. Clerk, any indication that anyone from the community would like to address the council on the resolutions?
Madam President, at this time, I do not see any comments by the public.
All right. I do apologize. Resolutions. Eight, 9, 10, and 11 have been amended, so they will read the following. Resolved that the fire chief will provide an annual accounting of funds provided by the city no later than February 1st of 2022. Any residents wishing to address the council on the resolutions? Once, twice, and sold. Anyone else, Mr. Clerk? Okay. Let's roll.
Okay, resolution number 1 by Councilmember Rautenstrau.
Do we have a second?
I'll take it, Madam President.
Second by Ms. Cameron.
Resolved that the common council minutes for March 2nd, 2021 be accepted as filed.
Comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Newman,
aye.
Cameron Danner,
Aye.
Rautenstrau,
Aye.
Cook.
I declare the resolution adopted.
Resolution number 2 by Councilmember Newman.
I'll second.
Resolved that the bills be allowed as audited.
Comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Newman,
Aye.
Cameron Danner,
Aye.
Rautenstrau,
Aye.
Cook.
I declare the resolution adopted.
Resolution number 3 by Councilmember Cameron Danner.
I'll second.
Whereas a special events application was received by the city clerk from Tonawanda Gateway Harbor, Inc. for Food Truck Thursdays. And whereas the application was reviewed and commented on by all appropriate department heads to ensure the safety and well-being of our residents. And whereas all the details for the above named event must be coordinated with Captain Frederick Foles and Amanda Loft, Parks and Recreation Director, and the event chairperson. Now therefore be resolved that permission is granted to Gateway Harbor, Inc. to conduct Food Truck Thursdays from 5 to 8 p.m. on June 10th, 17th, June 24th, July 1st, July 8th, July 15th, July 29th, August 5th, August 12th, August 19th, August 26th, September 2nd, September 9th, September 16th, and September 23rd. Resolved that a certificate of insurance naming the city as additional insured be filed with the city clerk no later than May 28th, 2021.
Comments or questions?
I do have a question.
Ms. Cameron Danner?
I'm assuming that with the current situation that we still have, if we have to cancel it due to crowds, even though it's not written in here, they're well aware of that.
Yeah, so that's a great point. I know I had spoken to Manny, I believe you have as well, Dawn. They are going to follow all COVID guidelines. Obviously, we can rescind this resolution if needed, given the pandemic, but they will be following all COVID guidelines and restrictions at that time.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Newman, Newman,
Aye.
Cameron Danner,
Aye.
Rautenstrau,
Aye.
Cook.
I declare the resolution adopted.
Resolution number 4 by the council, seconded by the council. Resolved at the recommendation of city engineer Jason J. Lamonaco that award of the contract for CDBG sanitary sewer lining 2020 change order number 2 be made to United Survey, Inc. at a credit to the city of Tonawanda in the amount of $29,626. Fiscal impact is a credit to the city of Tonawanda for $29,626.
Comments or questions? Comment, Mr. Clerk. I certainly love to see credits coming back to the city. So kudos to our engineer, everybody for staying on top of this. So this is good news. Not too many times do we see credits in a change order.
That's correct.
All right, any other comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Newman,
Aye.
Cameron Danner,
Aye.
Rautenstrau,
Aye.
Cook.
I declare the resolution adopted. Again, for those joining us, resolutions 5, 6, and 7 were tabled by Councilmember Rautenstrau, seconded by Mr. Newman, and our city clerk has taken the roll. So 5, 6, and 7 are tabled.
Okay, resolution number 8 by the council, seconded by the council. Resolved that the mayor be authorized and directed to sign the following.
Mr.
agreement.
Clerk, I'm gonna make a motion to waive readings 8, 9, 10, and 11. Do I have a second?
I'll second it, Madam President.
Second by Ms. Cameron Diner. Can you please call the roll for waiving the readings 8, 9, 10, and 11?
Newman.
Aye.
Cameron Danner,
Aye.
Rautenstrau,
Aye.
Cook.
Aye. Declared adopted.
Resolution number 8 by the council, seconded by the council.
Comments or questions?
Madam President, if I might,
Mr. Rounstrau?
I just kind of wanted to comment in regards to the next four resolutions. There was a little bit of divisiveness, a little bit of emotional topic about this. I just want to say, I think that, at least speak for myself, we want to give this the money, we want to put it out there. But I thought it was important to raise a question in regards to justification of the funds, to have documentation of it, not only for ourselves, but to have something in place for the next councils. So it's there, so it's quantified. That being said, I just want to thank our volunteer firefighters for what they do for our city, for their commitment, and to keep the conversation open with us, with the city, to see if there's anything we can do. And, maybe to put it out there to suggest that to consider consolidating 4 volunteer departments into one as an effort to save on some of the spending, or save some cost to ourselves and to you, or at least start that discussion at some point. I just wanted to be on the record saying that, and thank you very much for your service to our city.
Thank you, Mr. Rounstrau. Any other comments or questions? Comment, I'm going to reserve my comments till the end, but I do want to thank the council for their support. I want to thank Councilmember Newman for his work and the efforts that he put into this. And I think, yeah, like I said, I'm going to reserve my comments to the end. Any other comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Newman,
Aye.
Cameron Danner,
Aye.
Rautenstrau,
Aye.
Cook.
I declare the resolution adopted.
Resolution number 9 by the council, seconded by the council.
Comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Newman,
Aye.
Cameron Danner,
Aye.
Rautenstrau,
Aye.
Cook.
I declare the resolution adopted.
Resolution number 10 by the council, seconded by the council.
Comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Newman,
Aye.
Cameron Danner,
Aye.
Rautenstrau.
Aye.
Cook.
I declare the resolution adopted.
Resolution 11 by the council, seconded by the council.
Comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Newman,
Aye.
Cameron Danner,
Aye.
Rautenstrau,
Aye.
Cook.
I declare the resolution adopted.
Resolution number 12 by the council, seconded by the council. Resolved that the common council authorizes Mayor Rick Davis to apply for the Tonawanda Community Environmental Benefits Program grant for improvements at Veterans Park.
Comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Newman,
Aye.
Cameron Danner,
Aye.
Rautenstrau,
Aye.
Cook.
I declare the resolution adopted.
Resolution number 13 was tabled by Council President Cook, seconded by Council Member Newman.
Right, with council members Rautenstrau and Cameron Diner in support.
Correct.
Okay.
Resolution number 14 by Council Member Newman.
Do we have a second? I'll
I'll
second.
take it.
Done?
Okay.
Yeah.
I can take it if you want.
You're good. Okay, Council, seconded by Ms. Cameron.
Resolved that the 2021 general fund operating budget be amended by the common council during the March 16, 2021 council meeting as follows. Adding salaries to parks, 42,800. Care of fire buildings, professional services of 12,000. And we're subtracting from council contingency COVID 54,800.
Comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Newman,
Aye.
Cameron,
Aye.
Rautenstrau,
Aye.
Cook.
I declare the resolution adopted. At this time, we'll now take comments by the public following the resolutions. There is a spot for you to raise your hand. Please do so at this time and we will call on you.
Janet, could I ask a question? Gail Cypress.
Yes.
Gail Cypress, 301 Broad, Tonawanda. Could I ask what the balance will be in the council contingency budget after this resolution tonight?
Yes, you can. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Reese, our city treasurer. You're on mute, Mr. Reese.
I have my mouse over on the budget. I believe it's 66,000, but I'm just trying to get that number for you now. So give me a second and I'll go back over to my paper here.
So 66 and change.
One more question, Jenna.
Yes, Mrs. Davis.
Was there any money put over into the council contingency budget for Canal Fest?
No, that was not budgeted.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Mrs. Cypress. Mr. Reese, you're still on mute. I don't know if you were. Okay. Mrs. Cypress, I will get you that exact number and I will let you know. Any other comments, questions? If you do so, please, if you'd like to address the council, please raise your hand and then we will call on you. Mr. Clerk, do you see? Oh, Mr. Reese.
I'm sorry, we're gonna go with $54,446.
So one more time, 54,000 for.
446.
Thank you.
Madam President, at this time, I do not show any other members of the public indicating that answering a question.
Thank you very much. Last call, if anyone from community would like to address the council, please do so.
Madam President.
There is a raise your hand, Mr. Clerk.
I do have a question by Mr. Karcher. You'll have to-
Okay. Is he unmuted?
Yes, he is.
Okay, Mr. Karcher, go ahead.
Yeah, Bill Kircher, 38 Niagara Street. I was just curious, I saw the food trucks that passed. Where are they gonna put the food trucks if we're gonna be working on that section down there?
That is currently being looked at by the Parks Director and Captain Foles. They are looking at utilizing Adams Street between Seymour and Maine.
Okay, it just wasn't announced, so I didn't know where it was gonna take place.
The campus has not been finalized. A lot of it is dependent on the COVID restrictions and the number of food trucks that participate. But once we have that finalized, Mr. Rauenstra, if you just want to make a note of that, to just circle back with Mr. Kircher on that.
And all the businesses, so we know down here how to. around it, work with.
Yeah, we'll make sure we get that information to you. All right, any other comments or questions? Mr. Clerk, anyone else wishing to address the council on your end? All right, Mr. Newman.
Thank you, Madam President. First, I do want to thank our volunteer fire companies for everything they do. You know, we have, 4 companies that are made up of, rehab unit, EMO, fire, police, and firefighters. Well, they do a lot of service to this community in a lot of different aspects. So I definitely want to, thank them for what they do. They know they have my support completely. I also want to thank our fire chief. He's had a lot to do with trying to keep everything in line with fire companies. He's been constantly looking for, avenues to save money for the city, grants, and doing as much as he can with very little. The fire companies, the fire department as a whole has constantly been, ridiculed and, short funded. And I think they do a great job with what they have. I also want to thank our police reform committee, for all the effort that they put into that committee, and spent a lot of work, as well as the senior citizens committee. It's the same. They've done a lot of work and coming up with some answers on the senior center. I also want to mention that our council president, Jenna Cook, the second year has been named a finalist for the Athena Young Professionals Leadership Award. There's 100 nominations, and she is top 10 for the second year. Congratulations to her for her effort, her good work in the professional community. I want to circle back to Mr. Rautenstrau's comments about combining fire companies. The fire companies as a whole has a combined of over 500 years of history in this city. To combine them to save a buck is kind of ridiculous. I would rather see the efforts put forth to see what can be done to help these fire companies in recruitment, and possibly some incentives to actually become a firefighter. These are people who volunteer their time 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Doesn't matter if it's sunny out or if it's 10 below zero. They're going to roll out of bed when that alarm rings, and they're going to give it everything they have. I did it for 16 years. And I got to tell you, it's a lot of work. Training is a lot of work. The commitment's a lot of work. Then there's the social aspect of it all, which probably balances out a lot of that effort. And I got to tell you, it's a lot. And constantly trying to justify their commitment it's painful, quite honestly. So with that being said, that's all I have to say. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Newman. Mrs. Cameron.
Thank you, Madam President. I too would like to just touch a little bit on our volunteer fire department. Coming from a family of volunteers, not necessarily here in Tonawanda, but up near the Thousand Islands, I know what it means to be a volunteer. They don't have a lot of paid fire departments where I came from. So yes, I know that they take a lot of time away from family members. My father was a captain of a volunteer fire department for years. So I know the training that went into that. So I do give those guys and women a big shout out because it is a huge time commitment. But again, with our city, we need to come together, not divide. I don't care if it's the police, I don't care if it's the fire department. We shouldn't be putting one against the other. At the end of the day, our residents are what matters. They matter in my eyes. I don't consider any single one of you different because of your politics, what affiliation you are. I treat you all the same. And I wish to God that our council members would do the same and stop the fighting, because it does no good for our residents. That's all I have, Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Cameron. Mr. Rounstrau?
I want to reiterate the thought. Again, thanks to our volunteer fire department. My suggestion on consolidation, it's not suggesting equaling any kind of reduction in support. Again, we're living in a time faced with deficits last year, facing some unknowns today. A very wise woman, I'm just pulling up a quote to remember, said it would be great to have a policeman, a fireman, a fire truck, a first aid squad on every corner. But we have to do what our taxpayers can afford. And that's very important. It's tough to mitigate and justify to our residents and mitigate the support and that our city needs, the help that they need. It's a tough job that we all have to justify these things. Again, as Tom said, it's not about them fighting to show that they what they do. I think we can all appreciate the value of the volunteer fire department, our emergency services. But again, we answer to the taxpayers. It's a short term of 2 years. It gets questioned every year. They have bookkeepers, they have people that could provide this information for us. So it's transparent to the council, it's transparent to the people. And that's not an attack on the fire department. That's sound financial principles that we need to consider. And again, I appreciate the work. I'm glad we all work together, and I'm glad we came to a compromise on this and we're able to do this. It was the right thing to do for our volunteers. Moving on to that, and as I mentioned with the quote about how we would like to have all this, the policeman, fireman, and fire truck on every corner. The Police Reform Committee. I just want to comment. These are great ideas. These are wonderful things that we'd like to implement. Again, it's how we're going to do it financially is what's going to be the struggle. I hope we can get there. I hope we can put it into place, and I hope we can seek out funding. And hopefully, we'll be able to talk about this more next week. But I really do want to say thank you to the men and women that were on this committee. I was on there for many of the Saturdays and mornings as well. And to say I appreciate Lindsay Jelski and Phil Shield for giving the presentation. The other members, Jen Baker, Foster Baker, Pastor Sam Shifa, Arthur Pressman, Chuck Gilbert for his work in organizing this. I do want to especially thank Lieutenant Brian Levy as the representative from the police department. I think he was very helpful in helping us, the committee, understand and navigate through what the police department does and understand everything that you guys put in place, from the accreditation to your outreach to who you rely on to do your job, and to be able to tell us what you need to do your job better. So I guess I'm saying I hope we can do a little more with this and give our city what we need. Beyond that, that's all I really have to say. So thank you. I'm passing along to you.
Thank you, Mr. Rounstrau. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam President. My turn to sound like a broken record. I'd like to thank the Police Reform Committee. I know, the executive order from the governor came at a unfortunate time to be able to hold public hearings and get feedback. And I think they rolled with it and did the best they could. I believe they had over 350 responses, something like that, to the surveys, and I can't thank them enough for the job that they did under less than desirable circumstances. And I see Mr. Mayor down there. He's been kind enough to this is the second council meeting that he's participated in, and I think that all of us want that sense of normalcy back You know, last year we didn't have the events, we didn't have the festivals, we didn't have the concerts. And I think everybody, you know, in city government is committed to trying to work with Canal Fest organization to make this happen. And some things are really out of our control. You know, we could get a second wave coming, and it really puts a kibosh on not only this, but food trucks and things like that. So, like I said, it's nice that that you're meeting with us, Rick, and you know, we're committed to helping you guys as an organization, you know, as best as we can to try to make the event a go this year. So, and last but certainly not least, I hope everyone has a healthy and happy Easter. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mayor. I too would like to thank the Police Reform Committee for their presentation this evening. And I wanted to also invite you to our meeting next Tuesday, and I'll have our council liaison just reach out to the committee and just let them know what time that we'll be meeting once we get that finalized. So more to come on that. We are absolutely committed to adhering to the governor's executive order and adopting a resolution by April 1st. So once we get that timeline for next Tuesday settled with the clerk, we'll make sure that you're invited as well to participate in that discussion. I also want to thank the Senior Citizens Committee. This was a committee that I had approached the council on forming, and we had unanimous support behind it. Their recommendations and their proposal were instrumental in us adopting a resolution to move forward with, you know, transferring some of that money back to the Parks and Rec line so that we can open up the Senior Citizen Center in the near future. You know, certainly when we were meeting all together in City Hall, we would give shout outs from time to time. Our city clerk has gone above and beyond, and I don't sing his praises enough, but orchestrating the Zoom meetings, not just for the Common Council, but for all of our committees, for department heads. I mean, you've done a great job, Mr. Casso, and we certainly appreciate it. It's not easy. It's not easy to orchestrate this. And, you know, many times we as a council joke, you know, let's get our bingo cards out. And, but you've done an amazing job, and, you know, you're our unsung hero. You're my unsung hero in this. I couldn't do what I do without you. And so I thank you. And I know the residents thank you. And even you're getting some emojis here, some hearts and high fives. But I wanted to recognize you for that.
Thank you, Madam President.
With respect to the volunteer firemen, fire departments, you know, I had some conversations with Chief Stewart, as well as I had the opportunity to reach out to several volunteer fire departments, and I thank them for their time. I actually learned a lot from those conversations. I was always under the impression that they had to file 990 forms. Up until yesterday, I was advised, no, that's not the case. They have filed all their appropriate paperwork with the state, and they are corporations. So, you know, certainly I am committed to meeting with our volunteer fire departments with the president. So, Mr. Newman, if you could orchestrate a meeting with all of us so that, you know, we can all come together and talk about what we need to do as a city, what we need to do as a council to certainly increase our enrollment, see what kind of support we can provide. I think there was a lot of misinformation on Facebook and social media, and I received some calls from residents. And, you know, it's not easy being an elected official. Certainly, social media is an important tool for us to get our information out to the community, especially with the absence of a newspaper. But we pride ourselves on being transparent, providing the accurate information that we know to be true. So it may take us a minute to get the information to you, but trust us, we're going to research that, whatever topic it may be. But I just want to be mindful out there that the last thing this council wants is any misinformation or inaccurate information, or to insinuate that one of us is against, any entity or organization, because it's simply not true. We're all one community. We're all in this together, and we'll figure out a way to make it work. So with that said, for those that are still around listening to us babble here, we have had some conversations with the Canal Fest. So I do want to segue into that part, but first I want to make sure Chief Strasburg is on. Chief, are you with us?
Madam President, both chiefs are on.
Perfect. Okay. We had a great attendance tonight, so pardon me, I'm going from page to page here. Okay, so Chief Stewart's there, Chief Strasburg is with us, and Mr. Mayor, you're with us. Is Pete with us? You're muted, Mr. Mayor. Okay, I don't believe Pete is with us, Mr. Mayor. You're muted, so you can unmute. I want to have an informal discussion, but Mr. Rua, do I have to adjourn this portion and then we go into this discussion with Canal Fest, or can I just segue into it? I'm looking for you for guidance here.
I mean, no, you don't have to adjourn the meeting. This is still actually
Perfect.
city business, so you can continue.
Okay, perfect. So,
It's no different than, Jenna, it's no different if we went in off the floor into the caucus room.
Right.
Out of the caucus room.
Right. Just want to dot my i's, cross my t's here. Mr. Mayor, are you unmuted? And is Mr. Chenier with us?
I don't believe he is.
Okay. So for those in the community, obviously we're going to have an informal discussion about Canal Fest. Mr. Mayor kind of in the hot seat, but no, just kidding. I do want to allow, there are some business owners here, so I do want to allow them to give you some feedback as well. So first, I want to thank you for taking the time again to meet with the Common Council. There were some discussions about, the campus, the size. So I felt it best. We felt it best to bring the chiefs together and so forth and so on. So with that said, I'll kind of turn it over to you first.
Well, for those of you that don't know, the campus has changed, obviously. This year will be different than any other year. Our plan right now is to use, it would be Niagara Street, a section of Niagara Street, and Main Street up to approximately Adams Street as our new campus. On Niagara Street would be all family-oriented type stuff, family-oriented kiddie rides, games, and so on. On Main Street, starting right at the bridge, we would place all our nonprofit organizations. Now, last week, Thursday, I went and measured the space that we had previously used, just our nonprofit organizations, worked out to about 320 feet. Now, if we measure from the bridge, 320 feet, excluding the crosswalks, takes us just past Mooney's. Now, if we were to take some of those nonprofit organizations and put them on the other side of the street. Obviously, we can work our campus backwards a little bit back towards Niagara Street. One of the things we would like to do this year is put a stage on Main Street, approximately at the entrance to that McDonald's parking lot. That stage would be all family oriented type stuff, including a drive-in movie night, possibly, a magician, live music, but all family oriented. Everything else will be done on the other side, the rock bands, that kind of stuff. The reason for this is to generate interest for people to stay over there and spend money with the City of Tonawanda nonprofit organizations. Quite honestly, after 8 o'clock, the kiddie rides start to shut down, people start to walk away. We don't want to do that to our nonprofits. So we're going to try to keep something on stage every night of the week to give people a reason to be over there. That being said, I guess the only change aside from the actual campus is that we would request one evening to stay open late, not the rides, just the nonprofit organizations, because we want to run a drive-in night. Bring your lawn chairs, come and watch a movie with us. And we'd like to let our nonprofit organizations stay open throughout that evening. I'm guessing it would probably close sometime around 11 o'clock, depending on what time we can start the movie, which all depends on daylight or dark in this case. That's all I got.
Okay,
Right.
I want to bring the chiefs in. Mr. Strasburg, Mr. Stewart.
Here,
Yes, thoughts?
are you going to close Main Street then for the entire week from Adam to Niagara?
Typically it is more or less. The actual booths will not be going any farther than they ever had. So the farthest down Main Street that we would go would be that parking lot entrance into the Benderson parking lot. So everything else would be same as usual. Now I know during the day that you allowed cars to park down in that area. Not a problem. That part wouldn't change. So I say closed, meaning no through traffic for the most part.
Mr. Mayor, how many non-for-profits do you expect on the city side?
Currently, we have 10, and that may increase, that may decrease, but right now we have 10 that are committed to coming. They've already paid their membership. They've already submitted their menus. So we can pretty much count on them. There's always someone that wants to come in at the last minute. By changing our campus a little bit and using both sides of that street, we could probably accommodate 2 or 3 more. Another thing along with that is, along with the ride change, the ride vendor will be taking some of his food stands over into North Tonawanda, which also frees up space for our nonprofits. And quite honestly, makes it a little easier to sell their product, I believe. So I think he had 5 stands over there. Last time I spoke with him, he was thinking 2 or 3. So that's going to open that up for us.
And you've obviously been in contact with the ride vendors, correct?
Well, that actually it would be the Carousel Museum that has been in contact. They actually sponsor the ride vendor. We spoke with Corky last year, knowing that the campus was going to be closed down, actually 2 years ago. And we have walked the proposed new campus with Corky. he says it's going to work, both Tonawanda and North Tonawanda. It was actually his idea to convert the Tonawanda side all over to family-oriented stuff. It's easier for him, I think it's going to be easier for him to set all the kiddie rides over there and the games that he wants to use versus the other side of the canal.
How can you assure the council that, you know, whatever COVID restrictions are in place, that if there is an agreement in place, you know, the Canal Fest will adhere to the COVID restrictions?
Well, like anybody else, we obviously have to adhere to any COVID restrictions. The ride vendor also understands that. He's from New York State, Rochester area. So, you know, we leave that up to him. As far as, you know, the rest of Canal Fest, that's certainly on us, and we will certainly do what we need to do to follow it. You know, we get fined just like anybody else, and we certainly do not want to get fined. We don't want to get anybody sick, you know, we just want to make it happen.
And you submitted a formal proposal to the Common Council. I did forward it to my colleagues. Are you aware have you submitted a formal proposal to North Tonawanda so we can do this in conjunction?
Actually, they will get theirs on Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah, I was, Pete was gonna write it, but he wanted me to use the same one I did. I told him I'll take care of it and just make the changes for them, but it will be identical, except for their street names and such.
Okay. Chiefs, do either of you have any questions for Mr. Mayor?
I'm still just trying to get my head wrapped around how these nonprofits are going to be on Main Street. I mean, as a general rule of thumb, cars and people don't mix. And I just don't know how we're going to mix the two, depending on how far down Main Street they go. I'm not saying it can't work. I'm saying that I'm not getting a clear picture in my head how it will work.
Yeah, we really won't be going any further than we ever have. Typically, we've had the National Guard as the end point on Main Street, and that ends right around the middle of Mooney's. If we move a couple of our booths over to the other side of the street, we'll actually end before Mooney's. So that won't really change. The only thing that's going to change is we will have that stage that will sit, I'm hoping will sit at the entrance to that parking lot. And we will probably have some booths or something that run up to that. But that's the other side of the street.
I guess the big difference is the National Guard never came in till 5 o'clock, so you didn't have people in the street. If you're going to be selling food, and a lot of the vendors open up early, they're going to be, if they sell food during the day, you're going to have lines out into the street. With the National Guard equipment, that was just taking up parking spaces.
Yeah, well, there's really no place for them to go or no reason for them to even drive down there.
Well, I'm sure the business like that's in the old bank, they were allowed to use their parking lot. I'm sure Mr. Karcher might have something to say about that. And I know for sure Amato and Fox will have something to say to it, because they do to us every year when that street gets shut down and their customers can't get anywhere near their businesses. So in the past, we've allowed them to get to that bank parking lot on every day but Wednesday when the kids' rides were going. So
well, they will still have access to that. I mean, typically they don't drive in that parking lot. I don't believe they don't come in that driveway. I mean, we're not actually closing the parking lot.
Don't they store trailers and equipment in those parking lots or in those areas?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Haven't they historically stored trailers and equipment in those parking lots?
No, not really.
They usually put their campers in there.
Right. Which again takes
That's
away
what they
from parking
say.
from those businesses.
they put their campers at, on,
The Rite Aid property, and then they do it between Paul Ertel's building and Amato. Sometimes there's some on Ertel's property. But McDonald's hasn't had it. That's been all parking lot.
yeah,
And then the old drive-through of the bank, that's always been open. They don't park in there either. And that business uses it for his employees.
right, that's where the ride vendor has his office.
So, Mr. Mayor, and you understand the proposal to be that all the adult rides will be on North Tonawanda side.
Absolutely.
So the city side will have the vendors as well as any kiddie rides, correct?
All the kiddie rides and, you know, I don't even know as far as the games. He didn't think he was going to put too many games over on that side. Because quite honestly, the little kiddies don't really play games. He was kind of focusing that kind of stuff over on the North Tonawanda side. So
If I might, even if you are putting stuff there on that Niagara Street point, you know, it would be very helpful if we had some sort of a footprint or a map and some clear guidelines as to where there's going to be. Again, I think the businesses on Niagara Street, they're often forgotten. You pay a little more attention to the Main Street businesses. But number one, you know, their parking is affected. It's an 8-day event, but it's really a 10-day event because the day before and the day after it ends up closing them off as well. On top of the concerns about loss of business, there's the issues with the parking and the access to their businesses, their frontage being blocked. You know, as I mentioned beforehand, I don't know if you were still on, our Main Street in that area has evolved a bit, and we have a lot more front-facing open retail that I don't think we have had in the past. And there's a couple of them that are new. The soda, candy and soda pop place, Twin Cities Deli, Munchies, they're places that this is their first experience with it. And, you know, I want to make sure that they're aware of what's going on, that they're involved with it, that they have a clear idea of how they're going to be affected. We don't want to overwhelm these businesses. They're making a strong effort to build our downtown area. So I want to do everything we can do to work with them. And I want to put some of that onus on you guys to do that as well, to have an area blocked for them, have an area open where their frontage isn't going to be blocked, their parking isn't going to be blocked for their own employees, where they're not going to be overtaken by an office or kiddie rides right in front of their store. You know, I asked Mr. Karcher's on here. I invite him to make his comments as well, but he shared with me, you know, there's a lot of ideas that he had to make that a little more kid friendly, if it's going to be a kiddie area. You know, one of my concerns as a parent with young kids is what is the opening of the rides and when are they going to be open? Is being that it's an 8-day event, isn't there a limitation on the hours that you can have the rides open? Will there be events during the day? You know, I take my kids down earlier in the day. They're off of school. I used to take a few days off of work to bring them down there. And I've been often disappointed that, you know, I go down there at noon and there's no rides to really take them on. There's no real events that they can interact with. It gets a little disappointing. Is there more that we can do to promote the kid aspect of it? You know, the nighttime of it seems to be a little more for adults and older kids, you know, at the beer tent and the food places and stuff like that. But, you know, as a parent, it would be great to have something to bring my kids to enjoy Canal Fest.
Mr. Mayor, may I suggest, you said you walked the campus already, right?
Yep.
Okay. Can I put you in touch with our chiefs? So that maybe you guys can coordinate a time where you guys can walk the campus. And if that time is available for Councilmember Rautenstrau, if he can be present as well.
Yeah, that'll work.
Okay.
I'm open for that for sure.
Okay.
And actually, and
if
the business owners that are in that general area could be involved as well. Again, the transparency and the opportunity for them to be able to look at it would be helpful.
Yeah, I was going to ask Mr. Karcher to chime in 1 second, but Chief Strasburg and Chief Stewart, I'll send an email and, put you guys in touch with Mr. Mayor so that you guys can coordinate that.
That's fine, but I just like to say that I think I'd like to take the walk with the Canal Fest committee, not with the businesses, just because ours is traffic concerns and different things. I think I'd rather have it just say me and the fire chief and a couple representatives of Canal Fest, and then maybe Canal Fest could run a second one that tailors it with the businesses.
Okay,
Absolutely.
perfect. Mr. Karcher, I thank you for joining us. I want to give you an opportunity if as I said, we're having an informal discussion about the Canal Fest. So I particularly also want to hear from you as well.
Sure. Since I listened to the YouTube, your last meeting, I picked up a few things. So my thoughts have changed a little bit. But one thing I haven't heard tonight that I heard on the last one that we need to know is how much money is coming into the city from Canal Fest, because City of Tonawanda doesn't have $1 to spend on the Canal Fest. We can't spend it on the police department. We have no money for the fire department. There's one thing we need to find out is how much is this costing the City of Tonawanda? It shouldn't cost us nothing. As a business owner, I lose, so hopefully this will be different with the footprint. I'm past that point. I want to know how much it's going to cost us taxpayers. Thank you.
So I appreciate that question. That would be a negotiation
Something I
that
wanted to bring up.
we have with the Canal Fest Corporation.
I feel the same sentiment. I mean, we need to find out exactly what it's going to cost, because as we are aware, in our general, in the fund that we have left over that we put in the, we have what, 56,000, right? Isn't that what we have in the contingency fund?
I think that's what the treasurer brought up. That's what's going to be left over after all of this.
Yeah, I mean, it should not come back out of the
54.4.
city. Okay, so again, coming back to the residents, not only did our downtown district have a hard time last year with COVID, a lot of them had to close, and if they opened up, it was curbside only. Billigins has closed for the last few years due to the fact that they've had rides in front of their store. So they've lost, again, they had a hard time last year. They had, sidewalks replaced. So they were shut down for a little bit. I mean, we need to think about our downtown neighborhood because it is expanding. We do have new restaurants there. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is, but I do know that our residents should not have to to pay that bill. I mean, Canal Fest had said that they wanted to do 10 grand. Then you know what? If they can only afford 10 grand, let's take it down from Thursday to Sunday. I mean, that you can't have it for the full 10 days. I mean, it's just not fair to our businesses and to our residents, to fit a bill that, I mean, even above that, the 23 grand that you guys paid 2 years ago didn't cover it. I'd hate to see it go away, but at the same time, our residents have been through enough with the COVID-19 pandemic, and we have to draw the line somewhere.
So I think the next steps are, Mr. Mayor, if you can walk the campus with both chiefs. And then certainly we'll get their feedback from them.
Well, if, and I can suggest just tagging on to Dawn as well. One of the big things in the sentiment is this does provide a source of revenue for these not-for-profits. In your presentation, you do list a few of them, and I'm curious if you have a solid commitment from them at this point. I know the Democrat committee's on there, and given that our vice chair had passed away last year and had one of the connections, I'm pretty confident that we're not going to be participating in it just for the lack of resources and the lack of people to do it. Given the uncertainty of the pandemic, are we sure that there's going to be the Sunrays, the Salvation Army, the Boy Scouts, Lions Club, who is the souvlaki vendor? We talk about a solid commitment on these people, and we want to benefit them, but is this a benefit to them, or is it troublesome for them to be able to come up with the manpower and the people to be able to do this? Does it make sense to shorten it? We've seen a lot of the longer festivals throughout a region get smaller pre-COVID, just due to the lack of interest in the amount of people here. We talk about, this has been going on for years, and as going to these myself, you see less and less people working for the committee's smoothie tent. It was obvious to me that there was less people there. Is this still an ideal thing? Does it still bring the amount of people that we think it brings? And does it benefit these not-for-profits? Does it benefit our businesses? Those are the things that we need to take into consideration. Again, as our downtown builds, as our Main Street builds up, as we have new restaurants and front-facing retail, does a 8-day, 10-day festival where they have to close down make sense in our community? Or does it make sense to do something more accommodating to celebrate our city's history, to bring people together, and to benefit our local businesses, and to maybe circle some of those events around these not-for-profits that maybe can't do the 8 days or can't go for an extended period of time, and find a way to bring them in and celebrate our canal and our history and do it that way. These are the kind of questions that I think we need to consider, and we need the input from our businesses in the area. I mean, absolutely. We're at a state where we want to get back to a certain normalcy. We want to open up. We want to have festivals. That's an intangible, but the financial impact of that is something we need to take into consideration, given the fact that we have suffered financial losses, a lack of funding, and a lack of revenue over the past year, and have a potential to do it for the next year. I just wanted to make that point. So
Mr. Mayor, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I can tell you that the nonprofits that have paid their membership, have submitted their menus and so on, have all committed to being there. I can't say for sure if it's a hardship for them, but I'm assuming they wouldn't be there if it wasn't something they couldn't overcome. Obviously, they need the money or they wouldn't commit to it. As far as all the other things, I don't know.
All right, so why don't we do next steps? We'll get you in touch with the chiefs, with both chiefs, so you can walk the campus. Mayor, did you have anything additional to add?
No, I think everything's been covered tonight.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Mayor? All right, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. We'll get you in touch with the chiefs and get you to walk the campus, and then, we'll take the next step from there.
Sounds good. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you listening to me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rick.
All right, with that said, I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Ms. Cameron. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for.
Good night.
Good
Night,
night.
guys.
8:09, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you very much. Thanks everyone again for joining, and I will be ending the call momentarily.
Thanks, Jim. Have a great night.
Thank you.